They're increasingly, from the Tea Party on, they're voting on race. They're voting on this idea of an invasion of brown people over the border. They're just voting specifically on racial animus at this stage. It isn't about economics.
No, which is why Trump killed the immigration bill.
Correct.
That's why. And because otherwise he can't run against the other and brown people and people who don't look like him. I mean, if you look at some of these exit polls, I mean, I live in Virginia. Immigration was the #1 issue. I mean, again, these could change in Virginia.
Well, Virginia does have a border with West Virginia. Very contested area.
As Super Tuesday election results trickled in last night, the liberal media intelligentsia provided a case study of what denial looks like. Don't be fooled by the ladies of MSNBC joining forces to jovially mock voters who express concern about the migrant crisis. Because if one looks closely enough, you can see that Wojak mask slipping. I suspect they're actually panicking about the vulnerabilities of the Democratic Party as we barrel toward the general election.
Well, Ana Kasparian of the Young Turks continues on her redemption arc today, calling out all the libtard imbeciles, including Joy Reid, over at MSNBC, who take evident delight in mocking ordinary Americans' concerns about the mass migrant invasion at America's southern border, and their concerns about massive immigration in general, whether legal or illegal. Let's listen to what Ana Kasparian has to say, and I have a feeling she's going to rip them a new one, judging by the start she's off to here.
They absolutely should be panicking, by the way. Unfortunately, instead of hearing voters out, the women of MSNBC have chosen ignorance and denial instead.
Every election cycle, particularly when there's a Democratic incumbent, we get reminded about the borders. And the borders become a thing again, and then if there's a Republican in office, we don't think about them anymore. It's the deficit and the border. Like, you make these things an issue, you make them into boogeymen, you make them into something that grabs you from under the bed at night as soon as you wake up. As long as there's a Democratic incumbent to blame on it, you make sure that nothing's ever done to fix either, and then you hope that people stop talking about them once you've got a Republican in office.
Now, as much as I despise Rachel Maddow and MSNBC and the other mainstream media, especially the libtards and the leftists and the progressives and all that, she did just make an interesting point. Neither the Democrats nor the Republicans, in fact, are actually doing anything about mass migration, mass immigration, illegal immigration, legal immigration. None of them are doing anything about it in actual fact. So think about this. What's really going on? Why can't it just be taken care of?
Now look, I'm sure that there have been many examples of political opponents to Democrats exaggerating claims of immigration, but this ain't it. There's very clearly a migrant crisis. In December alone, 300,000 people crossed the border in just 1 month. And there are local communities who have been really struggling to appropriately respond to the influx of migrants who have arrived into their cities. And look, for viewers who have convinced themselves that the denial demonstrated by the gaggle of gals on MSNBC is in no way indicative of progressives, I have unfortunate news for you.
The idea that Republicans, in order to win an election, say we need to hermetically seal the border when they know that that is economic self-sabotage to the US economy. And they are saying, let's do it anyway, while ginning up this false narrative about this being a crisis. And there is not only no moral calculation, there is no economic calculation, there is no logical calculation, there is only a political calculation. And that political calculation is we are going to keep whining about it. We are going to keep pretending this is a crisis.
Pretending that this is a crisis. Look, I'm sad to say that Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is wrong. What's really unsettling is that she should know there's a migrant crisis. After all, she represents a district in New York where local officials have struggled to find shelter for the 171,000 plus migrants who arrived in the city recently. AOC herself addressed the migrant crisis just last September in front of the Roosevelt Hotel in New York City. Now you tell me if this doesn't look like a crisis to you.
Increase federal resources to cities and municipalities
Right, AOC. Yeah, I really don't think that all these recently arrived Venezuelan criminals, migrants in New York City, are out looking for jobs and dropping off their resumes at the local artisanal avocado toast eateries in Williamsburg. Yeah, I don't really think that's the problem.
Look, I'm sure the angry individuals in that video will just be brushed off as deranged right-wing lunatics who were sent there to harass AOC and give the false impression, of course, that people are worked up about our broken immigration system, right? If you think that, you're also wrong, but that's okay, because anecdotal evidence is oftentimes extremely misleading. So let's actually take a step back and take a broader look at broad public opinion in New York. For example, a Quinnipiac University poll just last September found that 62% of voters said that they agreed with New York City Mayor Eric Adams' statement from September, where he said that an influx of migrants will destroy the city.
Ooh. Person of color, Mayor Eric Adams. Cool it with the xenophobia and the racism, bro.
I really hate the framing of that question, because it makes it seem like there's something inherently negative or nefarious about migrants, and there just isn't. Most of these people came to America to work hard and build better lives for themselves and their families. That takes tenacity, resilience, and the willingness to take risks that I admire. I'll always feel deep gratitude for having the privilege of growing up in Reseda, California, a community where the majority of residents consisted of Latino immigrants. They've enriched my life. I'm a child of immigrants myself, and we are a nation of immigrants. It's important to remember that. However, our immigration system is absolutely broken, and there are loopholes in our laws that human traffickers, unfortunately, are well versed in. These loopholes allow for the unmanageable influx of migrants into the country at a time when we don't have enough judges to process asylum claims. And this also comes at a time when we clearly have a shortage of housing for American citizens.
Well, this being the Young Turks, of course, nothing's perfect. Far from it, indeed. So Anna still has a way to go on her redemption arc story. Sorry, Anna, but the only appropriate response to mass migration is not more immigration courts. It's not more resources for housing migrants. The only solution, obviously, is to not to let them into the country in the first place. I mean, at the end of the day, mass migration is not a moral issue. It's a practical issue. A government has the right, has the duty, in fact, to tightly control immigration into the country. A government has the duty to protect its citizens. And that means part of that duty is to protect the borders of the country and control all immigration, legal immigration or illegal. And, you know, why are we letting all these immigrants into the country in the first place? There should be a clear need for it. And when there is a need and it's been spotted and discussed, then you can turn on the tap, let in a certain number of people from certain places. You know, you don't just let in a certain number of people, you let in a certain kind of people, right? You let in high quality people who will fulfill the tasks and the jobs, fill the jobs that you want filled specifically. You don't just let in a bunch of people and then sort them out afterwards. That's absolute nonsense. And that's actually a recent phenomenon in the United States. In the early days of the 20th century, when there was loads of mass migration to the States on purpose and done, thought was put into it, they turned the tap off and on at various times, and they let in people from certain parts of the world at various times. From 1965, when the new Immigration Act was enacted, that all went out the window, and it's been going downhill ever since. So anyway, if you like this kind of content, I hope you do. Press like and subscribe, notification bell, all that good stuff. Really helps out the channel, and it helps me to keep making content for you.